Hi, this is Braden Holtby.
Hey, this is Tanner the Bulldozer Bozer.
Hi, this is Brian Burke from Toronto, Ontario.
This is Daryl Sutter.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carly Agro from Sportsnet Central.
This is Jay Onright.
This is Quick Dick coming to you from Toftenville, Saskatchewan.
Hey, everybody. My name is Theo Fleury.
This is Kelly Rudy.
This is Corey Cross.
This is Wade Redden.
This is Jordan Tutu.
My name is Jim Pattison.
Hey, it's Ron McLean, Hockey Night in Canada and Rogers Hometown Hockey, and welcome to the Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Hump Day Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing well. We got a great one on tap for you. We're rewinding the clock again this week on another Archives episode, and this one was recorded back in May 2020, so it's a while ago now that it was first recorded. It is great nonetheless. I'm excited for you guys to hear it. But before we get there, let's get to today's episode sponsors. First, we have Jen Gilbert and team over at Coldwell Banker, Cityside Realty. They've served the community for over 40 years, since 1976, and they are passionate about our community, and they pride themselves in giving back through volunteer opportunities and partnerships as often as they can. You know, I was talking about it earlier in the week, and if you missed Monday's episode, I'll share it again. One of the random things, she said they get involved in these random opportunities, and I don't know if there's any more random than this. The plastic bags. There's a lady from North Battleford, Lacey Lehman. She'd posted on Facebook looking for plastic bags, and then what she does with them is she weaves plastic bags into mats for the homeless. I've looked at them. They're pretty incredible, to be honest. Anyways, most of us would just, oh yeah, here's some plastic bags. Well, Coldwell got involved and became a place for dropping them off, and just really tried to help supercharge getting these plastic bags to Lacey so she can build more mats for the homeless. It was a pretty cool initiative, and I was kind of like, you're doing what now? But that's what you get when you team up with Coldwell Banker. Three Trees Tap and Kitchen, in collaboration with the Kinsmen and Kinettes, they are doing Telemiracle Steak Night. The Kinsmen will be cooking steaks outside Three Trees, and then Three Trees will be packaging the steaks with a salad, potato, and dessert. The Kinsmen and Kinettes will then be delivering your meals to your door. It is Saturday, February 6th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tickets are $50 for the steak dinner, or they have a $10 kids option, chicken fingers and fries. Each ticket purchase includes free entry into door prize draws and delivery of the meal directly to your door. The night doesn't end with the meal. They are also providing live stream entertainment that will include music by Bud's Busted, Nine Irons, live updates of silent auction items, celebrity cameos, door prizes. For tickets, you can call Louis Stang, 306-821-7275, or Darcy Wildman, 780-871-4818. Crude-Master. Since 2006, Crude-Master has been an integral part of our community, and I could probably discuss, all they've done, what they can offer in the oil and gas industry, but I honestly wanted to just shine a bit of a light on what they do behind the scenes for our community. I'm talking about Heath and Tracy McDonald, who can continue to give to projects such as mine, the podcast. But I helped, do the 12-hour live stream for the Health Foundation, and Crude-Master was a donation there. When it comes to senior hockey, the Hillmont Hitmen have been very fortunate to have partners such as Heath and Tracy and Crude-Master giving to hockey out in Hillmont. I just admire Heath and Tracy and the initiatives they have. They have a successful business here in Lloydminster, but they continue to push for better things for all these community initiatives, and my hat's off to their group over at Crude-Master. HSI Group, they're the local oil field burners and combustion experts that can help make sure you have a compliant system working for you. The team also offers security, surveillance, and automation products for residential, commercial, livestock, and agricultural applications. Here at the podcast studio, they have the technology that has given us surveillance. They got the fob key, nice and simple, getting in and out of the doors. They are working with Elk Ridge Resort to update their system there as it's been purchased. So they got some cool things going on there. And not just oil and gas, they got multiple different ways they can help you, whether we're talking livestock, commercial, or residential. So make sure you give Brody or Kim a call today, 306-825-6310. A new one, Kiva Concrete. You may remember Chris Weeb. He was on the podcast way back at the start. And Kiva Concrete has hopped on since 1979. I should know this year, the year of the Edmonton Oilers. Kiva Concrete has been a family-owned and operated business that has almost 42 years of business here in the area, and they offer all concrete services from residential, decorative, and commercial flat work. They did the new countertops at the Elk Ridge Resort, updating a few things there. I bumped into Chris in the summertime, and they were doing the new patio for Spiro's Restaurant. I suggest you hop on their Instagram page and check out all of Kiva Concrete's work and their latest projects that they're doing. Give Chris a call today, 780-875-7678. If you're heading into any of these businesses, make sure you let them know you heard about them on the podcast. If you're interested in advertising on the show, visit Sean Newman Podcast, top right corner. Hit the contact button and send me your information. There's a few spots still available for 2021. Now, let's get on to that T-Bar 1 tale of the tape. Longtime residents of the community, siblings, they grew up near Sandy Beach, Saskatchewan. They talk of days before running water and electricity on the prairies, self-taught swimming lessons, and moving cattle across the ferry. I'm talking about George Mann and Ev Long. So buckle up. Here we go. Okay, well, let's start here. It is June 28th, about 1 in the afternoon, 2020. I'm joined by Evelyn Long and George Mann to talk about their history, their parents' history. So first off, thanks for joining me, you two. And we got Mr. Morgan Mann along to help narrate as well. So thanks for joining me, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So why don't we start there? Let's talk about the Manns. You guys were just talking a little bit about being here before the bar colonists. Why doesn't somebody hop in there and we can start with that?
George came west.
As a farm instructor.
Yes, I guess so. Well, everything in the early days was happening north of the river. And so they were at Onion Lake. And he was a telegraph. He built the first telegraph line into Lloydminster when the bar colonists got there, and that's how he met Granny Mann, or Granny Ethel Burgess.
Burgess, yeah.
Yeah, and she was a bar
colonist.
Colonist, yeah. She was about 21 when she came over, so perfect marriage age, I guess.
Did you ever ask growing up why Lloydminster? Like, why this area? Did your grandparents or your parents ever talk about it?
Not really. I think they came here because that's where that group of bar colonists was sent to.
Yeah, they already had their pieces of land, their sections picked out to go to farm.
How many of the Manns came over from England?
Well, our grandfather had one brother and 4 sisters, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. But I know some of them stayed in Ontario, and I'm pretty sure maybe there was 3 brothers, I don't know. Some of them farmed in the States.
So the first man to come out was George Gwynn Sr.
Okay.
And Evelyn, was he married when he came out to be farm instructor at Onion Lake?
I think so.
Yeah, he had a family then.
And so it was his son, George Gwynn Jr.,
right,
who then was the telegraph. He was a young man during the Riel Rebellion, and then when Lloyd settled with the bar colonists, he met Ethel at one of the bar colonists' dances.
Right.
And I think about a year later, as Evelyn was saying, they were the first to be married in the log church.
The one sitting on the east side of town.
So when Lloydminster had their 100th year anniversary, we did a reenactment of the wedding, where I married my sister.
Yeah. I think it was a lot of fun.
It was a really good deal.
Yeah.
And so we, everything from dress to, we came up in a cart and buggy, or horse and buggy, and in the church, and we got into costume, and it was a really good event.
Yeah, there was a lot of older ladies there that were quite excited.
Yeah.
They were waiting in the church when we got there.
Yeah.
They were excited just because of what they got to wear, or?
I think there was that part of it. Evelyn was one of the lead organizers of the event, so she could speak to it more so.
What was your question again?
Well, just you reenacted an old wedding. I'm curious, what were the things that in particular made it stick out? What details of an old wedding were you like, oh, geez, I hadn't thought about that? And that's what they did back then.
That log church was still there, and they were the first couple married in it. Our granny and grandpa.
Grandparents.
Yeah, our grandparents.
Right.
And
I think a lot of the bar colonists, the original bar colonist families, it was exciting for them to celebrate in that ceremony. So a lot of those families were there, and everybody came in dress of the time. From I remember gluing on with a fake mustache tag that came out the side and a Scotch cap, and there.
Oh, and there it is. Look
at
those hats. The archive will be able to pull that up, but look, man.
Yeah. So we dressed, we looked very similar to that, didn't we, Dorothy?
Yes. Melissa had a dress quite like that.
Yeah.
And
there was a whole week of activities, but that, I think for our family, it was a special day to celebrate, to reenact that. And
Cousin Ethel.
Yeah.
Sorry. Cousin Ethel.
I needed to have 6 mics in here. Who knew?
Cousin Ethel brought her cart and horse in, and the bride and groom were toured around the park. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very good.
Pretty cool to celebrate a piece of history like that, especially for this area, the first wedding.
Yeah.
The church still being here, being able to go in and actually see.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty unbelievable.
Our son Ron was the minister that married them.
Yeah. Yeah, Ron was the minister. And, and
a
Melissa was.
It was a family event, yeah. I think the ushers were family, brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Who was the bride and groom?
Sis and I.
Yeah.
Kate was a bride, or a flower girl.
Yeah.
She was just small at that.
How about your guys' childhood? Let's go to, I was talking to George before we started. Your mother died early on, is what I was told. Do you have memories? Ev, you would have been the oldest?
Yeah, I don't remember her at all.
And your father never remarried?
No. Well, he did in later years. He married Marguerite McEwen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he spread his love around the country. That's all I'm going to say.
How was growing up with your siblings? I mean, I know I grew up with Francis's kids, admired Morgan Merv playing hockey, but what were you three like as young whippersnappers?
Well, we were awful shy and quiet.
Yeah.
Somehow I find that hard to believe.
Frank was only 15 months old
when your mother passed.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was 5. George was.
And
holy man.
Our grandmothers on both sides helped to raise us to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then housekeepers.
And then I got old enough to do it, so I used to make the school lunches, and George and Frank would get the horses, and we would go to school. And
so you guys would ride horse to school?
Yeah.
We had a sleigh in the summer, or in the winter. Sorry.
Winter.
Yeah.
And where was school for you?
Black Rock, about 2.5 miles cross country.
Right beside Justin Babies.
Oh, right beside Justin Babies. Okay.
You'd know where that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now,
it was tough.
How so? What do you remember about it being tough?
Well,
I mean, besides having to saddle up.
We were alone quite a bit on the weekends.
Our dad was away a lot.
What did your dad do for work?
Oh, farmed. And he built telephone line. If there was a job come up where there was a piece of telephone line to build, he could climb, so he'd build these telephone lines. Him and George Payne.
On the weekends, then he'd be working and you guys would be at home?
Oh, yeah, sometimes. We were home alone a lot.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Not always because of work.
I remember one Christmas we had the tree up, and like my mom had all these little plastic candles that clipped on.
Okay.
And we decided to light them, and we lit them all up and looked at it for a while, and then we decided we better blow them out, and we could have burnt the whole house down right there.
How old were you, do you think, back when you were doing that?
Not very old.
At least you had the wherewithal to blow them out.
Granny lived right in the yard, but she didn't like. She was getting older, and she didn't want to really get too involved in what was happening.
But she did help us a lot.
Oh yeah.
And she'd have us down for meals every now and then.
I think Pete ate there every noon hour.
Yeah.
She cooked dinner for him.
So you guys learned to fend for yourselves at an early age, then, is what you're saying?
A fair bit.
Yeah, we came home. The breakfast tables was still. The breakfast dishes were on the table, so I would get busy and wash that, and then cook potatoes and.
And you mentioned having hired people in the house to help with chores or meals or.
It was housekeepers. We never had a hired man in the yard.
And what did you think of having a housekeeper in the house?
Well, some were good and some we didn't get along with so good.
The ones you didn't get along with, what were his attitude?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, and strict with us.
Well, and one lady she had 5 kids of her own.
Living with you guys?
Yeah. She didn't stay a whole long time.
She was only there a short time.
Yeah.
How often would you change out?
Oh, they never stayed too long. They didn't.
No, found it tough enough conditions themselves, probably.
Yeah.
I think so, and they were kind of in the same situation we were. They had
looking for something
to make $1.
And for something better. Yeah.
I would add, Sean, I've always, I think our generation of Dorothy and I and the kids, to speak for them, they had a tough upbringing. Their dad was a hard man, and without the touch of a mom at home, and nothing extra. Wasn't easy, but it for the 3 kids, for Dad and Eveline and Frank, they became extremely close, and to this day are very loyal to each other, and it made for kids that it united them as a family, as 3 kids, and so Christmases and family celebrations all the way growing up were always celebrated together because of just how close the 3 of them were and protective of each other.
We always went to the Lindsays for Christmas Day.
Yeah, the aunts, Pete's sisters, the aunts really looked out for you guys too, didn't they?
And we
Very much so.
We went to the Robertons for New Year's.
Yeah. Did you live a time with Robertons too? Even?
1 year for high school because there was no bus.
Yeah.
So Annie Marion took me in.
Be able to get to
probably
school.
grade 9, and then we had a bus that went all the way up to Alcurve. It was what would you call it, George? It was
a feeder bus.
Yeah, but it was just a little van.
Yeah.
And we sat on the side.
Yeah, it had benches,
Yeah, and they picked us up, and then Alfred and Harold Peterson, and took us to Alcurve. And then we got on a big bus. So we got on that little bus about 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had to walk out to the road.
I only lasted 2 weeks. I quit school.
Yeah.
What grade did you quit school in?
I got 2 weeks of 9.
2 weeks and 9.
Well, Frank and I hung in there.
Where was high school for you?
Lloydminster.
You guys did come to what?
Yeah, from Alcurve. We got on the big bus
and bustled into town.
Yeah.
What was the school back then in Lloyd?
It was at the high school.
Was it the comp? Was the comp around back then?
No, the comp wasn't around.
But it was in the same area.
What was now, it's been taken down, Neville Goss.
Neville Goss?
Right in the same area, there's apartment buildings there now, Sean, where beside E.S. Laird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it?
Kitty corner from Jubilee.
Was that the high school? Out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I always marveled at the school because It was still around when I was a student, but they had this beautiful big gymnasium. And Queenie, the elementary school I went to, we didn't have a gym at that time. So going over to then it was called Jack Kemp, was a real treat because they had a big gymnasium. Yeah, a high school gymnasium from their years of being a high school.
So I got to ask, George, you quit school in grade 9. What do you go do?
Oh, I went to farming, I guess you'd call it.
I guess you'd call it. What did you call it?
I was helping out at home.
Yeah.
Well, you went to work with
And then
Lindsay's.
I worked for Jim and Dave Lindsay, you'd know them.
Okay, yeah.
Feeding cattle for the winter.
Yeah. Did you ever think of going back to school?
Oh, a couple of times. But when it come time to go, I didn't go.
Do you ever wish you would have finished out school?
No.
No.
No. I wasn't a good student.
What did you want to do when you were growing up? Did you just always want to farm?
Yeah, that's what I thought of, getting back and getting farming.
And how about you, Ev? You graduated from high school then?
Yes.
What was it that you wanted to grow up to be when you were in high school? Did you have a dream of
Being a nurse.
Okay.
And I was very fortunate. I trained at St. Paul's Hospital in Saskatchewan under the Grey Nuns, and all I had to do was put down a $100 deposit, and that was it. And once we started working on the wards, we got a stipend. We got $4 the first year, $6 the next, and then $8 the last year, a month. So because we were shipped right out onto the. Well, we had the first, till the end of January, we had class, and then they put us out
right into work.
Yeah, and then we'd have classes with whoever was over there looking after us.
You learned quickly.
Yeah, we did.
And having a little bit of money probably felt pretty good.
Well, it did help because there was a little store and we could go and get chips or something once in a while. And my friend and I walked all the way down to the Avenue H pool and took swimming lessons one summer because we were on the right block that we had the time to go, and that's when they were teaching them.
So up until that point, then you'd never learned swimming or never gone to swimming lessons?
No.
Do you both know how to swim?
Yeah, we learned how to swim quite young because we lived right on the lake.
But never to actual structured swimming lessons?
We were never taught the proper way. We just learned how to swim. Float on your back.
Shall we tell him what Pete would say?
Don't drown.
Tell him.
What would Pete say?
What the hell's wrong with you? Get down there and learn to swim.
Pretty tough.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You mentioned having a pretty tough father, tough upbringing. I always think the man, and an extension now, I guess you're along, but the man's have been always so extremely nice. And what was it then about the three of you bonding together that you look back and pull like all the good out of that when you look back? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Well, the three of us got along very well. We'd have our little spats once in a while. We did get along quite well.
Siblings never have spats, do they?
No, never.
What did you guys do for fun, the three of you? Like, what was your fun time? You're gonna.
In the winter, we had skates, and I was the goalie, and I didn't really enjoy that, but we'd go down on the lake and Frank and
Did you have pads on, that kind of thing, Ev?
I think maybe a newspaper or something.
Tied to your legs?
Yeah.
And they were shooting an actual puck, I assume?
Yeah, well, I told them
pucks.
Not above the ankles, not above the ankles.
How many times did they hit you above the ankles?
A few times.
Well, let's talk about sports. Did you guys grow up in elementary school and onwards playing sports? You mentioned hockey.
We didn't play much hockey, but we played a lot of ball at school. And we had a very good ball team at Black Rock School for a few years.
Yeah.
Now, are we talking slow pitch?
No, orthodox.
Orthodox,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually made it right to Green Street. in the playoffs one year, didn't we?
Yeah, all the schools, you see, would play off and keep whoever got eliminated, and then about 4 teams would end up at Green Street at the final
Picnic.
track meet of the year, picnic they called it.
Yeah.
And we made it there several times.
But never won her.
Never won it. No, North Bend or Albion was too tough for us.
Yeah.
They had too many kids.
Isn't that just lovely to hear? Like, you think now, like, when was the last time a ball tournament was ever played at Green Street?
Yeah.
You know, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And now you hardly have any ball minus in Lloyd, I think. I mean, Irma's got a really strong team, and probably a couple other communities. But when you mention off all those teams, like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Would it be co-ed then? Would it be boys and girls playing on the same team?
Oh, yes.
I remember there was a game on, and we didn't know if we were going to get there or not. And all of a sudden we looked down and there was a car at the gate. They'd come to pick us up, so we were really excited about that. Right, George?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
we had no ride, and then somebody showed up and picked us up and took us.
I can't remember who it was.
Yeah. Do you remember who it was, Dad?
Bert Noyce.
Oh, was it Bert?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. We really enjoyed that, playing ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were pretty good, I guess, because they came and got us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Frank play with you as well then?
Oh, yes.
So the 3 of you on a team together.
Well, we only had enough at school to make a team.
So it would be then, if I'm thinking about this correct, it'd be boys and girls. It'd be a school team. So you would have age group of, say, like 7 to age 12 kind of thing?
Yeah. Most teams had 2 or 3 little ones on.
Yeah.
Then they made a rule that you had to have so many. You couldn't have all grade 10s like North Bend or Albion would have.
They were winning too many times.
Yeah,
You got to put a couple of rules on.
All the priest boys there, you didn't have a hope in
What
we beat out, what school was it that was on the 10-mile road that we beat out and got to go to
Maybe that was North Gully.
Yeah, North Gully. Maybe that was where we went when they came and picked us up and played.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Was it one-room schoolhouse where you went?
Yeah.
How many kids back then?
Well, at one time we had about 15, but Black Rock got right down to about 9 kids. So then that's about the time they closed the school.
Yeah.
Do you remember what year that was?
No.
I'd already gone into high school then, I think.
What was one teacher then?
One teacher, yeah.
One teacher, little schoolhouse out in the prairie.
Right.
What was discipline like back then?
What was that?
Discipline.
Oh, it was pretty good, but there was always a little term where the teacher had to whack somebody over the side of the head.
What would the teacher whack you over the side of the head with?
Oh, just a ruler.
Ruler?
It was pretty strict, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Some teachers were a lot stricter than
Well,
others.
it was Nick Meekin, wasn't it, that we started out with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we had some younger girls that were just out of teacher training.
Yeah.
They were pretty nice. They didn't whack you over the head with a ruler.
I feel like you got whacked over the head with a ruler a couple times, George.
Several times.
Do you remember what you were doing on such occasion?
Not totally.
He's not telling.
I heard stories about Dixie Hutchin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Dixie. What were you talking too much? And you got sent to the cloakroom, and Dixie came back and said, George and I liked it in the cloakroom. I can't remember who the teacher was then, though.
How about weather back in the day? I know traveling 2.5 miles to school both ways, at the best of times, when you're taking a 5-minute drive, the weather can change pretty rapidly, but moving horses back and forth, having to saddle them up, unsaddle them, everything. Was there times when the snow would come in and she'd be, we ain't getting anywhere, or? Did you have
Oh
anything
yeah,
like
we
that?
had some very cold trips because we had to go to the northwest and usually right into the wind. So about 2.5 miles to school when it was 20 below was a pretty cold trip.
I think the snow was deeper then too. I think we got more snow. I remember we got off the tracks once, and where it was packed, it was good. We got off the side, and the horses were just lunging like that to get back on.
Mm-hmm.
How about the river? Did you guys ever go? Were you up on the river at all?
No, not too much. Just if we went to Onion Lake for something, just sports days or.
We
something.
always went to the 1st of July, Onion Lake Sports Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit.
That was because of Granny, I think that's what they did. They were involved with Onion Lake, the Manns.
Back then, there wouldn't have been a bridge, correct?
No, ferry.
A little ferry,
Yeah.
a little barge.
Yeah, right at Hewitt's Landing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd take the barge across and then ride horses across the Onion, or did you
No,
have
we had an old car.
an old car? What did you have for an old car?
Oh, I don't know what it was. It wasn't fancy anyway.
It was black and square. And George and Frank would fall asleep in the back.
You used to pasture cows at Onion Lake, though, and have to try and get them back across the river. Lots of stories with that.
Yeah, I remember when we first were married.
Yeah, that was in later years when we put the cows on the ferry.
Put cows on the ferry.
Yeah, we'd drive about up to 40 calves on the ferry.
Really? And did they ever?
The odd one would jump off, but they'd usually swim to well, they would. They'd swim to shore.
Yeah.
Make it. We'd have to go down river and pick them up.
That had to have been quite the
He
sight.
said that. Pick 'em up.
Do you have any pictures of that? Do you guys ever take pictures?
Yeah,
of that?
we've got some pictures of crossing the cows on the ferry. I'd have to look for them, but I know there's pictures there.
Geez, that's something that would be a sight, wouldn't it?
It is. I've seen them. They're.
Did you take
I
Yeah.
remember when Evan and I first got married, we went up and watched you guys push cows onto the ferry and come across, and there was one day a cow tried to jump over the front fence and got her back leg caught, and there were about 4 men came in and lifted the gate, and the cow right up and to get her free and that. And if she'd have got through that gate, she'd have jumped off the end of it, and then the ferry would have ran over top of her. That fence saved her, actually.
There's just something you don't hear about anymore.
No,
That's
those
right.
days are gone.
Those days
Yeah.
are gone.
Yeah, you truck them now.
Yeah, well, there just isn't too many ferries anymore, right? Like
No,
in our area, the Peyton Ferry is. I go across it pretty much every second day going to work, but other than that, there just isn't a whole lot of ferries anymore.
well, we were across the river and come back that way this past summer just to say we'd been on the ferry for.
Yeah, we went. Harold had a picnic.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have another one, George.
It's probably my favorite part of my day. It's you get on the ferry and you just get to turn the truck off and sit there, and it's just
Yeah.
peaceful,
Yeah.
right? It's just peaceful. You don't get that a lot in
No.
life anymore.
No.
Going back to this sports days in Onion Lake, what did they have back then?
Well, they had horse sports, so they had potato races, which was about 5, 6 would line up, and they'd have a stick in their hand, and they'd charge down and see how many potatoes they could get, pick one at a time, and come back and put down and keep. So it got pretty hilarious watching these people gallop back and forth with a potato on a stick.
And then,
Gymkhana events.
Yes.
and then a horse race
Yeah.
every year, because that's sort of what ended it.
It was a good day
Yeah.
Yeah.
because everything was a bit wild and woolly, and you could get a laugh.
They'd had some booze. Booze, you could get a pop.
Oh,
Or ice cream.
I was hearing booze.
Oh, good. I better sit up straight.
When did you guys meet your significant others?
Oh, I met Leonard at the hospital when I came back and started nursing on the surgical floor. And his mom was in there for something.
Gallbladder, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
So then he appeared at the nurse's residence one evening looking.
Looking for you?
Not with gallbladder trouble.
No, he hasn't had that.
Do you remember your first date? Or how about
I think we went to the show, and we went up into the
Balcony.
balcony, yeah, and guess who was there? Rob and Eileen.
What is the show?
What was the show?
What building is that? What are you talking about?
Oh, the old May Theatre.
The old May Theatre.
Yeah.
It was called the Empress then.
And it had a balcony.
Yeah, it had a balcony.
Well, we went, Granny took us there, like we would go shopping on Saturday. Granny had to go shopping on Saturday, get her groceries, get them to the car. And Pete would go to the bar, so we would go and see the show, and then go back and wait in the car till
Sit in the car till the bar closed.
Yeah, and then I sat between him and Granny, and he would fall asleep, and I would sit with my left foot on the gas and steer, and we'd get home.
Holy man, you must have been scared stiff by the time you got back.
Not really. There wasn't. Only one thing happened where you go through that dip by Weavers. Somebody came across and they hit their back bumper on ours, and it woke Pete up, and he was mad as
Mad at you guys, and he was sleeping.
Yeah.
Do you remember, going back to the show, do you remember what the first movie was, or one of the first movies, or maybe a favorite movie back in the day that you guys saw there?
Oh, that Granny took us to.
I don't really. I remember there was a. If you went to the Rio, they were westerns, and if you went to the Empress, they were something else.
What was the other place?
The Empress.
Empress and which
the Rio.
The Rio.
It was just around the corner. Where would you say it was at?
It was around the corner between Skinner Ford dealership and Skinner Motors and.
So, am I understanding Lloyd had two movie theaters back
Two
in the
movie
day?
theaters.
I wasn't aware of that.
And
Really?
they were usually full on a Saturday night.
Interesting. How long ago did, well, I mean, obviously it was a long time ago because I don't ever remember it, but how long did Rio stay going then?
Oh, it was going until I was pretty well grown up.
And they were both indoor? Was there outdoor movies
Oh,
as
no,
well?
they were indoor.
They were indoor.
Yeah.
They always had a Christmas show, because Granny'd always make sure we got to that at the Rio.
And what was the Christmas show? Just a movie?
Yeah, a movie. It was the one year it was about a black leopard, and Frank dreamed about that for a long time after. It really scared him. Yeah, it wasn't a movie for kids.
Sort of like watching
Well, he thought the black leopard was coming.
A black leopard or something. Yeah. Big black cat.
Yeah.
How about you, George? How did you meet your significant other?
My wife, she was nursing at the Lloydminster Hospital, and she liked horses. And we used to drive cattle for Marshall Tyndall. We'd drive them right from Lloyd out to right by our place. And she got quite friendly with Marcia, so she started coming on these drives. That's how we met.
And then you sweet talked her.
Yeah, being fairly smooth.
That's there for the end of time.
How did you ask her to marry you?
Oh, I don't know. I guess we just talked about it and decided we were going to get married.
Do you remember where you got the ring from?
Esser's.
And where is that, in Lloyd?
Right in Lloyd, Esser's Jewelers.
She come with you, or did you go buy it yourself?
No, she come. I told her you better pick it out or get it, and she mightn't like it.
How about your wedding? How many people at your wedding?
Oh, quite a few. Well, it was in Senlac.
That's a story in itself.
Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah.
It was a big blizzard the night before, and it didn't look like anyone was going to get there.
What time of year is this?
December.
December, okay.
And I got down there. Next, everybody started coming, and then they started telling the story. Harry Thompson run the grader, and Ethel got him out about 2 o'clock in the morning when the wind and the storm was over. And Ethel had it figured out who all was coming to the wedding from up in this country, and Harry plowed them out.
Isn't that a great story?
Took the grader and just plowed everybody out.
Yeah. Well, he was operating the grader, so he knew how to get into the shop and get it out. Everybody, Ethel had it figured out who all was going to the wedding, and Harry plowed them out. And then he got to the wedding himself.
How was your wife on your wedding day? No, you know, I think of my wife on her wedding day when things aren't going right. I can't imagine a giant blizzard. How was she doing?
Well, she was pretty excited, didn't think nobody'd come. I said there'll be no one from our country. And they all showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
After we were in the Sunlight Bar for 2 or 3 hours before the wedding. And I always remember Dorothy, she was just a baby, and the church was way up on a high hill, and we were kind of making smart remarks back and forth. And the minister came in and said, "In the presence of God," and Dorothy shot a headshot. It was the word God.
Yeah, she started looking all around.
How about you, Ev? Do you remember how he proposed? Am I putting you on the spot? Do you remember your wedding day?
Oh, yeah.
Where did you get married?
In the Anglican church in Lloydminster.
In Lloyd?
Yeah.
What time of year were you guys married?
October 23rd. We had to wait till harvest was done.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's interesting you don't hear that too much anymore, do you? About waiting until harvest. People just get married right and smack in the middle of everything.
That used to be a big excuse, but you're quite right. You don't hear people say, "Oh, I can't come, it's harvest time," or something.
Equipment, harvest has changed now, though, too, hasn't it?
Yeah, big equipment and that.
Yeah.
How have things changed since you guys were young? What's one of the biggest things you look at and go, geez, some days I don't even understand that. How is that possible?
Oh, I don't know. I think for me it's been in better shape financially. We were always very hard up, it seemed like, when we were younger. Now there seems to be a few dollars around all the time. Makes things a lot easier.
What's one of the stories then, or things that stick out as being a young kid or a young man and not having any money, and that you look back on and you tell your kids, you know, back when I was X, we were eating, you know, craft dinner and hot dogs or whatever, what have you?
I don't. It's just that there was different times that we wanted to go somewhere where there was no money to go with, so we just didn't go.
Did you go as a young guy? Did you go anywhere, George? Did you
not on a holiday? I never did. We just 1st of July, stuff like that.
But never anything further than the immediate area.
No, not me.
When was it?
Rodeo got Dad and Frank out of the area, and that opened up a kind of a whole new world to them.
How did you stumble on the rodeo?
Well, we always had horses and rode a lot. And Marshall Tyndall of Tabor, you've probably heard of Marshall. He had pasture out beside us. So he used to hire Frank and me to look after his cattle, and then he started driving them right out from Lloyd. Save getting trucks. So we were his head honchos driving these cattle out. And he'd get a bunch of greenhorns we'd have to look after too, because all his kids would have friends that wanted to come on this cattle drive. So.
But you had a little rodeo arena in the yard for a while too.
Yeah, we built an arena with a buck and shoot and a calf shoot for roping calves.
Leonard's got some slides of that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Boy, would I like to see that.
I seen George rope a calf in 8 seconds. Up there when Ev and I were going out together.
Up in the yard, Len?
Out in the yard, yeah.
That's still a good time at a rodeo.
Oh, yeah. And another thing to add to that is I remember when Ev and I were going together, and that they had horses trained. All they had was just slides on their half-ton truck, and they just lead the horses up to the back into the truck. They'd jump in, they'd throw a chain across the back, and that was it. They hauled their horses everywhere.
We hauled horses all over the country like that. Just drop the end gate on the back of the truck and undo the chain across, and they'd jump in. do the chain up, and away we'd go.
Yeah. Did you have things on the side of the truck?
Sheet of
wraps.
plywood.
Sheet of plywood on
Each side, yeah.
Each side.
Yeah.
And on the front?
Yeah, same thing.
And on the back, it's just a chain.
Open chain. And then we'd tie them up like.
The first summer, the first summer that I came home from nurses training, I went to 5 rodeos with my brothers
Is that right?
in 3 weeks, I think it was.
They were hard on the trail then at that
Yeah,
point.
they were.
Yeah.
What events did you go in? Did you go on them all?
No. Frank rode bulls all the time. And I roped cows and used to get on a few bulls, but I started getting a little nervous of them. So I quit riding bulls.
Why? Just because they're a big, giant beast, or
Yeah.
did you have a bad experience?
I got thrown off pretty hard a few times.
They have
Thought the
big
best thing
horns too.
The best
Yeah,
thing
they
to
do.
do is not bother getting back on.
You always enjoyed your rope more anyway.
I like roping.
Yeah.
Where when you're going on the rodeo, where all over did you go to? Like,
Oh.
are we talking all of Saskatchewan? We talking immediate area back then?
No, not all Saskatchewan, but Meadow Lake was the big one. And Old Battleford, not North Battleford, but Old Battleford had a 3-day rodeo we were amateurs, you see.
Yeah.
So they had an amateur rodeo, and Onion Lake had one. And quite a few other little places would have a 1-day rodeo.
Over on the Alberta side, there were a couple, for sure.
You guys though hit. Remember when you went with McEwen's to Banff? And
Yeah,
you've
we
done
went.
Hinton in southern Saskatchewan.
Well,
I think you went pretty much all over.
Well, when we went to Hinton, it was in Banff, and that kind of a holiday too, and a chance to go and enter a rodeo out there.
Take everybody with you?
Well, it was just Frank
just you and
me
Frank?
Yeah, and there'd always be someone else around, like Denny Robbie from Marwayne or Dave Kenyon from Lloydminster.
I've heard stories about the road on the rodeo trail. Are they true?
Oh, some are.
What was your beverage of choice, you two, growing up?
Me, it was ginger ale, probably.
Ginger ale? Anything in the ginger ale? You never...
No, I didn't.
No drinking?
No, I didn't want anything to do with that.
Did you smoke at all?
No.
How about you, George?
Oh, I drank beer.
What was the beer you drank back then?
Calgary, mostly.
Yeah, Calgary. I always hear about Calgary. Sounds fascinating. I wish I could crack a Calgary. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I was lucky because Dutchins, they went on a long trip down to Ontario, and they dropped me off at Auntie Catherine's. Like, they'd take me along to be with Dixie, and went on a couple of trips like that.
Yeah.
And the one summer I got to spend a couple of weeks with my aunt in Hamilton. And we have 3 cousins there.
Be a real treat, Evelyn.
Yeah, it was, yeah. They were good to me, the Dutchins were, yeah. That helped a lot.
If it hadn't have been for rodeoing a little bit, Frank and me would never got out very much at all.
No.
But we started going to rodeos, so we got away and learned how to provide for ourselves a little bit. Get around the country.
Probably meet some interesting individuals, I bet,
Very
too.
much so, that we still know.
What was it about cattle? You're a guy who was in cattle his entire life. Was that what your father did then?
No, he farmed. He had a...
So grain farm, you mean?
Grain farm, yeah, but where we live, the land is quite light. So Frank and me quite quickly switched right over to strictly cattle. Because the crop would look good for a while in the spring, and then by midsummer we were getting dry weather. That light land, she just didn't produce.
Did you always enjoy animals? Do you guys love having animals? Was that a hard transition?
No, not at all. I liked having animals, and it was kind of went along with our lifestyle. Moving cattle around and riding horses.
Yeah, we always had a horse to ride to school. That's how we got to school. And we had a sleigh in the winter. Oh, and some winters Pete spent a lot of time building shafts because we had a one-horse sleigh. Somehow they'd drop out of the
Yeah.
and get broken off, or something would happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
One time we were going to school with a horse and cutter, and we went through a dip. The shafts jumped out and went in the ground. The cutter went up in the air. Shafts broke off, and
Yeah.
we went the horse. About 15, 20 minutes later, the teacher come, or not the teacher, Gordon Boyd, a neighbor,
Oh, right.
come back driving the horse.
This must belong to somebody.
Yeah.
Well, one year, Frank and I got the sleigh dumped us out, and it went way up to Boyd's, and he came driving it back. So
Yeah.
he did that a couple of times. Because the road was plowed through the fields up to their place.
So the horse
Yeah.
just followed the road.
Sure.
Yeah, so they just followed it.
Yeah.
When you first started over to cattle, how many cattle did you have?
We had about, when we were younger, maybe 35, 40 cows. Then we started getting more, and as Frank and me quit school, or we're done school, we started renting more pasture, and then we started buying a little, and we're up to about 1,000 yearlings on grass now.
What was the switch from cows to yearlings, steers?
It just seemed to work better for us.
There wasn't a light bulb just went on and went, geez, we could, if we switched over to this, we could make X, or we could get away from this, or...
Well, one thing was the winter feed. If we were short of feed, we didn't need to, we could buy towards spring. And where cows, they eat you out of house and home, it seemed like. So that was one of the big reasons we went to yearlings.
Did you also see Marshall ran yearlings too?
Yeah, our
He
neighbor.
was a bit like a mentor.
Marshall Tyndall, we did a lot for him, and we ended up with his pasture in the end too. But he told us to forget about farming. He said, "Don't farm, boys, get cattle." And Marshall always drove a big new car. It's kind of a good guy to take advice from.
Looked pretty good.
How about in the nursing world? How many years did you nurse for?
1 full year and about a month and a half. So,
Really?
Yeah. Then we got married. Then Dorothy came along. Then Alan right away.
Mm-hmm.
Then Dr. Skeen got me on birth control.
Did you never go back to nursing then?
Oh yes, I did. I had an opportunity to take a refresher course, and I worked part-time at Jubilee Home for about 15 or 16 years, part-time. I enjoyed it.
What do you both think about COVID-19 right now? You guys have lived a lot of years and seen a lot of things, seen a lot of highs, lows, everything. I can just imagine. What do you think of what's going on right now?
You go first.
Yeah, I think. I think Lloydminster's been very fortunate because there are hardly any cases here at all.
It's a concern.
For sure. Yeah.
I think about it, especially when my daughter's working at the hospital all the time. I think about her all the time.
Yeah. And being in crowds.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Lloydminster, what have they had, about 1 case in the hospital? Something like that.
They had a mild breakout.
Yeah, they had
off
a
the
mild
one.
breakout.
Yeah,
Yeah.
6
Yeah.
or 7
Yeah.
off that, but that was pretty much the one instance.
That was
Yeah.
it, yeah. So,
But I don't know.
But I
Listen to the
think-
radio, it seems like it's getting a little worse right now.
Yeah.
Well,
It only takes one person to
yeah.
get it rolling again.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
In your lifetime, have you seen anything even remotely close to this?
I haven't.
No,
No.
I don't think so.
How about the riots going on in the United States right now with George Floyd? Have you ever, you've seen some things again in your time that maybe something similar, or is it just the connectivity of social media and being able to be,
What Leonard says is they form a circle and shoot in.
Shoot in.
The Americans are in trouble.
Well, I think that with George Floyd, a lot of people on these demonstrations didn't even know what they were demonstrating about. They just got out there because they liked to vandal and stuff.
Well, it's an interesting time we live in when you can live action shot being on the front line, and so you have people take advantage of it for sure.
Oh,
whether
definitely.
that's looting or whether that's just being a part of the march to build their, I don't know, social media presence, I guess. Mm-hmm. In the last 10 years it's changed. And I can just imagine, you know, I asked a little bit ago what the biggest change is that you've seen through your lifetime, because there's been so many.
Oh, yeah. Total change.
How about farming? How has farming changed since you guys were kids?
Well, we didn't farm much, but it was just with a 6-foot tiller when I was a kid. You're lucky to get 20 acres a day seeded. Where now you can seed 200 or 300. The big equipment, lots of change. And nice equipment.
Yeah, that's a big change. Mm-hmm. Did you have power growing up on the farm?
53.
In 53 you got power.
Yeah.
What years were you two born?
What was that?
What years were you born?
41.
44.
41 and 44. So you had a few years in the beginning with no power then?
Oh, yes. I remember no power. Lighting the gas lamp at night.
Oh, well,
A couple of mantles on it. Once they throw a pretty good light once those mantles got lit up.
Do you miss those days?
Not at all.
Cold in the morning.
How about running water then?
Somebody had to work.
Running water.
Oh, we didn't get running water until we were getting a fair age.
In the 50s sometime.
Yeah, late 50s.
So did you have just a hand pump well then, or?
Pail and a rope.
Pail and a rope?
It was pretty shallow though, because the lake's so close.
But that's how we got our water when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I even remember when Pete in his house got indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
So you didn't have
no
indoor plumbing and water growing up.
Not till I got married.
Yeah.
Who was?
And then we bought a trailer and it had plumbing in it. You see.
Yeah.
Who was the old fellow that put the plumbing in for Pete?
Tom Younger.
Oh, was it Tom Young?
Yeah. Helped him.
Did you take cold baths, hot baths?
Oh, no, hot.
Saturday night.
Once a week?
I got to
Once
go
a week,
first.
had a bath.
Well, let's talk about that for 2 seconds. Saturday nights was bath night.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you'd heat up. In the wintertime, you'd melt a bunch of snow. So you had soft water.
And we always had
You'd put
a reservoir.
boiler on top of the kitchen stove and fill it with snow, and then you'd keep having snow until you had her about half full.
Yeah.
Then everybody used the same water.
I was first though. The wood stove had a reservoir on the side.
Okay.
That was kept full of water and it would heat up. And otherwise you had to heat it on over the burners, over the.
Geez, do you ever just look around and see, in the waste of water, just how?
Oh yeah.
You wouldn't have wasted anything back then.
Oh no.
No.
That's something to think about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did you do when you got power? Did you flick on every light in the house? Did you run around?
Oh no. Not like even today. Lights all you had to be switched off, and just the light, or you're going to run up a big bill. See. Oh, everybody was very reluctant to use too much power when they first got it because they weren't used to it. They were used to just having a coal oil lamp in the house, so when the power come, if you left the kitchen and went to the living room, shut the lights off in the kitchen. Or at least that's what we did anyway.
Yeah.
First thing we had was a refrigerator. Natural refrigerator, I remember.
That must have been quite the thing too, being able to keep all your food.
Oh yeah.
How about? Sorry.
I just said it made an awful difference when the power came. Got a deep freeze in the fridge.
How about gardens? Did you guys grow big gardens?
Oh yeah.
Always that was mandatory.
Always had a good garden, didn't
Yeah,
you?
and a cow to milk, for milk. It was always a...
So always had food.
Yeah.
Lots of wild meat.
Potatoes, we always had
Hunt?
lots of potatoes. Yeah.
We ate a lot of deer meat.
Pete could cook deer meat really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great at frying with the frying pan.
And he was an old hunter. He was always, if anybody could get one, he could.
Each of you have kids, obviously. What were some of the things you tried to do as parents in the early years?
Go ahead.
I'll talk for a little bit because I got 3 kids, 4 and under, and it's busy. And so you're trying to, I don't know, be around, instill good values, discipline, la-di-da-di-da. But I know specifically, George, I know your 3 kids, and they're exceptional human beings, and I'm just assuming that every your kids are as well. So I'm just wondering what you guys did early on, coming from your upbringing, what you were like, you know what, I'm going to ensure that...
We always give them a little bit of work to do, but always give them time to have some fun too. And we tried to keep them busy.
Yeah, put them in organizations like Girl Guides and Scouts. My kids went through.
4-H?
4-H, yes.
I think 4-H was one of the best things.
Right.
We made them feed their calves and get them ready for show, and then they made a few bucks. I don't think if you looked at it the other way that you made too much money because you had to put the feed all into them anyway, but you didn't feel it, and it was money for the kids.
Yeah.
And they could buy some of the stuff they needed.
One year, Charlotte's calf got away in the ES school grounds. They had a terrible time catching it. She said, that's the only time I didn't cry when my calf was sold.
In regards to parenting in general, what was one of your fears you had of your children?
Oh, my biggest fear, especially when they went to town and we were kind of born in the bush, raised out there, is if they'd get in with the wrong crowd. I thought about that a lot.
Was there anything you tried to do to make sure they didn't? Or you
Well,
just
tried to keep them quite involved in sports.
Yeah.
Keep them busy at home when they're home.
Yeah.
How did you got 2 sons that are pretty good hockey players, George? But did that come from you? Did you know?
No, it didn't come from me at all. Must have come from Maryland.
Well, it's interesting to have kids in the building. So, what did do you remember growing up, Morg? What George would do to like in regards to sports?
Well, we were given every opportunity. Some of the opportunities they didn't have as kids, we were given, and yet still mixed with some values of there's going to be some discipline and some work ethic, and it was a great childhood and environment to grow up in. And on Evelyn's side, lots of music in the family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, Ron's teaching singing lessons in Edmonton, and Grant McEwen, and he also performs. And Dorothy, well, I guess you had some piano lessons and
Girl Guides mostly.
Girl Guides, yeah. We got them in organizations that kept them busy, and they had lots of friends, and camping in the summer, and Alan.
How about marriage? I think we all know, sitting in this room, marriage is not exactly easy, and there's days that come and go, and there's easy times, better times, hard times, awful times, etc., that you work through. What was it something that you did with your marriage? I guess, how did you make it work for as many years as you have?
Well, it's easier now, I think, than when the kids were growing up, and Len was busy farming, so he wasn't there a lot. Like, they'd go early and work late, and that was probably the hardest part. Mm-hmm. But they turned out okay.
Yeah, we were kept quite busy all the time. Marilyn worked. That was sometimes a little tough, because I'd have to get the kids fed, and get them to bed, get them up in the morning to go to school. But I don't know if we'd have survived without her not working at one time.
But is there anything you'd like to pass down to your kids when it comes to a relationship that you're like, listen, just never stop X, or something along that lines, that's made your relationships work?
Well, I don't know. I think make sure you always think about the other person and think what they're going through. Try and get along.
Yeah. We worked together quite a bit, too. We took meals out to the field and all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Do our part.
And we always took time to enjoy ourselves. We don't saddle up all our horses different times. Go for a ride or something like that. Get the kids riding. Marilyn was very interested in riding, so she was quite interested in getting the kids out, getting them on a horse.
Sports days in the summer were good get-togethers.
Mm-hmm. Did lots of stuff as a family.
Right.
With your events, like you were coaches or leaders in the clubs and things that the kids were involved with.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
You know, I think that's part of it. I would just add, I think they both married into good families, and sometimes that's an important part of the package. Is it's not just your partner or your spouse, but the family that comes with it. And I always thought that for both Evelyn and Dad, they married into good families, that there was lots of support there. Couldn't not succeed. I guess I would feel the same. I was fortunate enough to do that myself.
As was I.
Yeah. And doesn't it make a difference?
It certainly does, yes.
I think that's a big part of it.
Grandma liked to spoil the kids, so.
Not all smooth sailing.
No, I went over there one day, and Alan was walking around on the countertops.
Yeah.
He always liked to climb on everything.
Yeah.
Did you volunteer in the area? Volunteering?
Yeah, well, if there was any community thing going on, I was always one of the ones that would go and help.
Exhibition board?
I was on the exhibition board for 20-some years. So that was volunteer work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the
Very
exhibition?
much. It was time to quit, but I hated to quit.
That's a long time to be on anything.
Yeah.
When you look back at your career there or your time there, is there an event or something you guys did that sticks out, George?
Not overly. We had some good events like the Silver Spur horse show that we used to put on. We'd bring in people to come from all over. That was quite an event. And then the fair always took a lot of work. But we had very good managers in Dick Jones and Mike Sidoric. So I enjoyed the exhibition board very much.
Many of your years were chairing the 4-H and the bull sale.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that too, and I got to know a lot of people by being the chairman of the bull sale. I'll get a little closer here.
How about you, Ev?
Yeah, I was Girl Guide leader for quite a few years, and Dorothy went through the program. We had camps down at Whitney,
Dilbert.
Dilbury Lake in the summer.
And you were on the music festival board.
Right, yeah, I was on the music festival board for quite a few years because, well, Ron was the one that was the most interested in music, but Alan was too. He's quite a good drummer.
He was drummer of the year in Saskatchewan.
Drummer of the year?
Was he?
Yes.
Yeah. And
When
him
was-
and Pam and Popey
Yeah.
were together walking after midnight.
Yeah.
Very,
but-
very successful band they had,
yeah,
didn't they?
Walking
Yeah.
After Midnight.
And
Yeah.
Alan was on the road about 4 years before that was in Gibbs Brothers.
No kidding.
Have you heard of them, Sean, the Gibbs Brothers?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a really good band going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you musical then?
Me musical?
Yeah.
No, Leonard's the music person.
Leonard's the music person.
I know the man side isn't. Can hardly whistle a tune.
Yeah, our kid, well, Ron's very musical.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
And
All of
Alan
them
and
are,
Dorothy are
yeah.
musical too.
Doris kids and
Yeah,
yeah, carries on.
yeah, it does.
If you could go back to your 20-year-old self and impart some wisdom, what would it be?
Oh, I don't think I'd do things much different than I have done. Maybe get away from home for a little while. That's one thing I didn't do.
Did you ever travel anywhere?
Not big time. Went to Mexico.
Yeah.
4 of us head out one winter. We were gone for 6 weeks. Drove to Mexico.
Drove to Mexico?
Yeah. Yeah, left Lloydminster, Frank and me and Wayne Unison, and who was the other one?
Kenyon.
Dave Kenyon.
You were ready to get back from that trip too.
Oh, yeah, I'd had enough. 6 weeks was too long.
Well,
You
Frank,
did a few work camps too, Dad, but you had a yearning to be at home. And,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
he was a homebody.
yeah.
Frank traveled all across Australia judging rodeos down there and helping them.
Yeah. Well,
Kind
for years, he'd take his fur money and would spend a month of February, many cruises in Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
He did a lot. He loved to travel.
Yeah,
Didn't he?
he did.
Yeah.
When Frank would go away and travel in Australia, how would you keep in touch with him? Or would you?
We wouldn't.
I'd send the odd postcard.
He might send a postcard,
Yeah.
but we never sent one to him.
Did you?
We didn't know where to
We
send
didn't
it.
know where he was.
Did you ever worry about him?
No.
No, he's off having a good time.
Yeah,
He'll
he's
be
having
back
a
when he
good
wants
time.
to
Yeah.
No, I never worried about it at all.
Francis James.
Yeah. Pretty resourceful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self, would you pass along any wisdom?
That's when I was in nurses training. So I'm not sure. Keep on studying and learning, I think.
What's your guys' favorite decade? If you look back through your lifetime, what was your favorite decade you've lived through thus far?
Good question.
Yeah.
That's a tough question. I don't know. I think probably maybe 40.
Well, what was it at 40?
Well, a person was a little more stable. He had some money. The kids were in a bunch of different sports.
And if I'm doing my math correctly, that's what, mid-80s?
Yeah, and I enjoyed their hockey very much. We're a little more stable. When you're around 20 years old, there's not too much money around, and you're trying to get started.
Did you go with the boys out east when they were going to the Allen Cup, anything like that?
No.
George? No?
I couldn't get away. It was too much to do at home with both them gone.
Did you go up to Stony Plain? Stony
Yeah,
Plain,
I
you
went
said?
to Stony Plain.
Went to. What did you think of that?
Good.
What did you think of all their hockey? Did you end up going and watching them when they played all over?
Who was that?
When you were watching the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Did you go and watch them at all when they were? When Morg's in Acadia, were you? Did you ever go out there to watch?
I've seen him play in Toronto. but never got to Acadia. Maryland did.
Yeah.
But they were in Toronto. What was that of?
For the Nationals.
Nationals.
Yeah.
And so we went to Toronto.
Marilyn quite enjoyed that trip to
Acadia.
Yeah, because she brought
she did.
my gram, her mom came
Right,
with her. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I know they had a great time together.
Yeah.
And how about yourself? What was your favorite decade?
Oh, I don't know. When the kids got older, in their teens, so what year would that, what?
80s.
The 80s.
The 80s were a fun time to be alive.
Yeah, because they were learning and we had more time together, Leonard and I.
So nobody wants to go back to when I'm right now, where you got 4 kids or 3 kids under 4, and you can't. Your hair's falling out.
In other words, your best years are yet to come.
Yes to come. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Hang in there, Mark.
Yeah.
What's the biggest advancement that you've seen over your lifetime in the human race? What's something?
Oh, in the human race.
Yeah. What's something that you just?
Getting electricity was a big thing when we got that, but I don't know about
that urbanized us.
Urbanized us, yeah.
No longer having to worry about how you're going to stay warm.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
I think electricity was probably one of the greatest things we ever got.
Yeah. Light, well, you...
$40 a month, a year, wasn't it?
What was it?
540, the number sticks in my mind, but I can't remember what.
$540 a year
Yeah.
for electricity.
Boy, that was high.
Where's every cent of it going?
Yeah. Granny was still alive then, so that probably helped.
I remember when we got power, first time. I figured, how much did you say?
500.
Yeah.
It cost us. Maybe it was a cost of getting into the yard.
Because I know they were talking about there was 2 houses in their yard, and they were scared they were going to have to pay 1,000 instead of 500. But they didn't. It was that covered 1 yard.
Yeah. Granny didn't put a lot of wiring into her house.
No, but she had power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Merle Gershaw and Harold and Harris, Ron Harris wired Mom and Dad's house. When power came in.
How about the biggest event? You know, you've seen, I mean, JFK being assassinated, landing on the moon, or you could go sports and Canada winning something, right? 72. Malcolm X. I can just keep listing off different historical things, but what sticks out in your mind as maybe one of the things that
I would say landing on the moon. I couldn't believe that when they could send up a satellite and put people on the moon.
Do you remember where you were?
Yeah.
Where were you?
I was right at home watching it on TV.
Did you crack a Calgary beer and go, holy crap?
I couldn't believe that they could do that.
I still can't believe they can do that.
Oh, that was a highlight for me.
It was a big step, but it seems like they haven't done anything.
Well, SpaceX just put another rocket in space the other day.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
other week, I
that's
guess,
true.
a couple weeks ago. But
we don't hear much about it. What?
Well, now they're all about putting things on Mars and, I don't know, testing everything there. And
right.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the moon then for you as well? Huh?
Probably.
I always ask about JFK being assassinated because, I mean, a president being assassinated, I don't know what it would have caused up here. I don't know if there would have been uproar. I don't know if the TV would have been lighting up. If, you know, on the farm, it was just like, oh, somebody got shot down south.
Yeah, but it was very covered everywhere. Everything was JFK being shot.
It was very sad.
Probably lasted for a week.
Because I think he was one of the people that could have help the United States. I mean, look at who they've got now. It's terrible what's going on.
It had to be quite significant because I still remember exactly you talking about it with us growing up. That you and Frank were hunting deer at the time and heard it on the radio.
The Kennedy
and you just sort of went home after that.
Yeah, it was.
It hit Canadians too, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, because just the kind of person he was, and
If you could get in a time machine and go anywhere, where would you go?
right back to where I'm living. I don't want to go anywhere else.
Just would go back to maybe some earlier days in your life?
Oh, earlier days, what I would have.
Or you would just go right home from here?
Yeah. Actually, I was fortunate because Dutchins, they had a girl, Dixie, that was the age of George, and they went down east, and I had an aunt in Hamilton, and they picked me up and took me down there and dropped me off, and then picked me up on their way back. That was happened a couple of times, I think. Yeah. And that's my mom's sister, so I actually had a chance to get to know her and her sons. She has 3 sons, or she had. They're still there. Yeah.
And you got to do that road trip several times?
Twice.
Twice?
Yeah. We didn't go down there, did we?
Yeah.
Oh, we did? Oh, yes.
Train.
Right, we went on the train.
Took a train out east?
Yeah.
How was that?
Climbed on Saskatoon, had a berth, and we slept. And I remember when we went across Ontario, it was in November or early October, and the lakes were froze. And when we came back, they thawed off. But when we were going down there, the trappers were coming out across the lake. You could see where they worked their way across the lakes, and then they stopped the train and then get on the train because it was their only way in and out.
Interesting.
It was an interesting trip. Yeah. There was a couple of older ladies in the same places, in the same area that we were in, and they were quite a pair of ladies.
Are you taking a time machine back to your house as well? Get me out of here.
I think probably the best years is with the kids in minor hockey and assisting figure skating and showing horses. And I totally enjoyed all that. And those were the best years, I'd say.
Do you have anything left on your bucket list you'd like to do?
No, not really. I kind of like to take it easy now.
Yeah.
I don't.
Nothing
I'm not a traveler.
No?
No, I don't like getting too far from home.
I'm 78 now, and I'm not leaving home. It's the best place to be.
Yeah.
You'd mentioned Trump, and, well, you alluded to Trump, I should say. It's one of the things I hadn't brought up, but politics, is that anything you guys have followed along with in your lifetime? Is there a time when you went, man, this was the best time, or this was the worst time, or?
Not for me, it hasn't been. No, wasn't into politics too heavy, and I can't say that I've complained about anything. Let them do their job. And
I married into a very political family. So I just went along with it.
Do you remember the first time you sat down at the dinner table and they started talking politics and you went, oh boy,
Yeah.
I'm in over my head?
Probably. Because I never got really involved in politics. A little bit when I was in nurses training, because one of the head nurses was really into it, and I was on her ward at the time. There was an election, so she was keeping us all up to date.
Yeah.
But other than that, I never really thought about it very much until I married Leonard.
Well, before we finish, since I have everybody in here, if there's something you want to ask the two of them, I think it'd be apt right here. Is there anything you've ever wanted to ask your dad, Morg? Or is there something that you'd like put on the history books?
Nothing right off the top of my head, Sean. I could pass the mic here to Dorth, though.
Or you can hop up here. Come on up. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that I think one of the great things about our family is that we always talk about things, and when we get together, you know, we have so much fun laughing, and so yeah, I think that listening to Uncle George and Frank tell stories in the past has really kept, you know, kind of our history alive, and yeah, I can't think of any other questions either, because I think we know.
How about this? Is there a story that they used to tell that they haven't told yet?
Oh.
We can't tell those stories, I see.
No, some good stories for sure.
Yeah.
Lots of humor they found from their, I think, upbringing and past, and survival stories in some cases, and
and I think that's one of the things that make them the positive people that they are, is that, you know, somehow through, you know, everything they went through, they find the ability to laugh. And I know my dad always talks about loving to go up to the Manns because everybody laughs and has a good time.
See the positive side of life.
Yeah.
Andy Marion was always happy and full of stories.
Yeah.
Andy Evelyn worked so hard.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting up early and going out, and she had ducks that she let out and fed, and chickens, and pale bunted some calves. And,
they worked, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she still cooked and did the housework and the garden.
Yeah. Remarkable.
I hate to ask a question about Frank, but I'm going to anyways, because I have siblings. How tough was it to have Frank go?
It was very tough for me because we were awful close. We talked things over. I found it very tough. I tried to hide it, but it was very tough.
Yeah, we still really miss him. I do. I didn't see him all that much, but he was a great guy.
What's your favorite Frank story?
There's quite a few, but I can't just think of them right offhanded.
What about the ones that you used to go up to those old fellas and help them out with their cows and that, and you go in for coffee and the cups were...
Oh yeah, that was this one place we went and helped him do calves and stuff. I won't mention the fellow's name, but he made us tea after having tea, and I kind of looked at my cup. I give it a rub with my thumb, and I could track right inside. He said, "It's all right on the inside." He said, "I had a cup out of it an hour or so ago."
That's the one I remember.
He let us ride through his pasture, though. He was quite generous that way. We went on a hike, the whole class, school class. Yeah. We rode around by his house and asked him if that would be all right. Oh, sure.
Well, thanks for coming and sitting down. I know you guys were a little bit nervous to come do this, and if I've missed anything before I cut this off, please, Maury, you're the guy sitting with a book of history in front of you. If I've missed something on the man, or or any of the stories, we still got time. Or if that's
I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I think you did a fantastic job. It's been really
I think
pleasure.
we got her covered pretty well.
Good. You're ready to get home and get back.
We had great grandparents that really helped out.
What was that?
I say we had great grandparents that helped
Oh, yeah.
out, like Granny. Granny Mann was always a little edgy with us, but she was there when we needed her.
Very English on her.
We didn't see Grandma Ogram quite as much, so
No.
she never gave us hell.
No.
Very upright and British, I'll say.
Well, thanks for coming in, guys. I appreciate this. I know the Lloyd Archives will really appreciate having you guys talk on here and a little bit about your stories and everything else. So
Thank you very much, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done, Sean.
Hey, folks. Thanks for joining us today. If you just stumbled on the show, please click subscribe. Then scroll to the bottom and rate and leave a review. I promise it helps. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, we will have a new guest sitting down to share their story. The Sean Newman Podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcast fix. Until next time.